Next up, we have a panel with some big dogs of DePIN. These are some of the most successful projects that have paved the way for DePIN summer. So let's welcome to the stage Yevgeny Khessin, co-founder of DIMO, Mike Horton, co-founder of GEODNET, Scott Sigel, COO at Helium Foundation, Garrett Kinsman, co-founder of Nodle, moderated by our very own Mariela of IoTeX. Let's give them a warm welcome to the stage, guys.
Thank you so much, everyone. Yeah, very excited to have, let me move over here, yeah. Oh, we have to, yeah. There we go, yeah. If you guys like DePIN, these guys are the ones to learn from. They're actually the founders and, high-level, C-level people that have made successful DePIN projects. So these are the DePIN OGs. You want to learn from them. So I'm so excited to be hosting this panel. I'm going to start by introducing themselves. So maybe Garrett, you can start by introducing yourself and your project and what are you guys doing?
Hi, I'm Garrett, co-founder of Nodle. We've been doing DePIN, especially on mobile, since like 2014 with FireChat. So building smartphone-based mesh networks. Now we're focused on using phones not only to connect reality using Bluetooth, but also to verify reality using the camera. So we have an app called Nodle and an app called Click for camera.
Scott Sigel, COO. Try the audio to get there. Scott Sigel, COO from the Helium Foundation. We build wireless networks. So Helium was not a crypto project from the get-go. It was really around solving for IoT, Internet of Things connectivity. Fast forward several years and realized the power of community-built networks, which is why we're all here today. Originally launched using the LoRaWAN standard, so low-power, long-range devices, and then expanded the network to build out a mobile network a couple of years ago, and then launched a crypto-native carrier from there.
Hi, Mike Horton, project creator of GeoDNet. GeoDNet is developing a location service using DePIN, so a high-precision, high accuracy, next generation GPS service using the DePIN model.
Hello, everybody. My name is Yevgeny. I'm the CTO and co-founder of DIMO. DIMO is a protocol that connects drivers and developers to build a new transportation system. And our goal is to really create a new kind of world where the drivers and developers can work together to have a privacy-preserving, trustless system that enables the next generation of transportation.
Yeah, so thank you so much, guys. As you can see, they're actually building real-world use cases and applications. And so this brings me to my next question. Obviously, all these use cases exist in Web 2. Why did you guys decide to go Web 3? And what are the things that you think it will solve to move to Web 3? And I'm going to start with Yev, so we can go over.
Oh, that's a good, that's a good question. I spent a decade in automotive before this. And there was three things that I worked on that really are the synthesis for what DIMO, why we wanted to build it on Web3. So the very first thing was right out of school, I actually did a EV charging with GM. And we were trying to do trip planning very early on to try and figure out how you're going to make it across the country. Second thing was actually a ride-hail project that I did with Ford. And the third one was self-driving, also with Ford. And between all those things, what I realized is there is not a single way for you to connect any car and have it talk to a parking meter or a stoplight in any city. There is not a single way to even access all those brands cohesively. So the distributed ledger, what it really allows you to do is create a single source of trust that's interoperable and allows the developer and the user in a privacy-preserving way to get value out of the system, right? And I don't think it's possible today. There is not a single project I can think of that does what we're doing in Web 2. And without this common layer, we're never going to see this next stage of transportation.
So from the GeoDNet side, I've spent my whole career in the field of location services, knowing where you are, where you're going. And one of the really hard problems is to deal with making that more accurate, compensating for errors in satellite systems. It's been tried a bunch of times in Web 2, and in fact, the genesis of the project was that we were trying, a couple of the co-founders, myself and another of the co-founders, were trying to build it in Web 2, and we realized even though the cost of some of the hardware components had come down, the overall cost of deploying nodes and renting space, getting permits, installing stuff was phenomenally expensive. And it would cost billions and billions, if not tens of billions of dollars, to build out the network that we wanted to enable consumers to be able to get high accuracy location. And actually, it's really seeing Helium and what they were doing with the IoT, we realized there was a different way. And that's how we kind of first learned about DePIN. And we started out about 2.5 years ago with the DePIN model with a device called the satellite miner that you install on your roof that can contribute data to this accuracy network that we have. And just a couple weeks ago, we now are the largest network on the planet for this type of data. So DePIN has been just phenomenally successful way to deploy this type of infrastructure for location services.
So if you think about why we're all here, and I don't just mean even to this show, I mean the entire consensus. We all believe in the power, we all believe in the value of an open, permissionless network. And it's across every sector that Web3 touches. But underneath all of that is connectivity. The idea that at this stage in human history, the ability to connect to the internet, the ability to engage with humans around the world is effectively, should be a universal basic human right. So how do you make sure, what does that path to ubiquitous coverage look like around the world? Wireless has always been built as a top-down model. You're talking about large incumbent telco, federal, national state grants, where it always flowed top-down, and the value always flowed back to a small number of very, very large organizations. So forgetting the equitable element of this for a moment, just think about the idea of, it's all about return to shareholders in a top-down model. So how do you make sure that places that are left behind, places that do not see enough coverage, it's all about a bottoms-up model. The idea that anybody and everybody who wants to participate in building infrastructure for connectivity should be able to do so. And that is what crypto enables. The idea of an economic incentive that people can participate in the network to provide that infrastructure and to be able to earn on that. So you've got value accruing more broadly, more people can participate, agency to individuals, to small businesses, and to neighborhoods and communities. So we actually have that promise of universal connectivity. So this is not possible in Web 2. You can't do this on traditional payment and banking rails. So open, permissionless networks, borderless. That's why we're all here. That's why the power of crypto makes these things possible.
I would say Helium is a bit sneaky and brilliant because it's probably one of the biggest Trojan horses into the telco industry that you've ever seen. The reality is a lot of these big companies don't do anything. In fact, they're probably hurt the U.S. economy when you look at how slowly they move. So DePIN is fundamentally a different way to organize civilization. When you look at wireless networks, if you actually look at the real cutting edge, like what's happening in the military, it's all decentralized. It's all collaborative wireless spectrum management. It's using decentralized systems and new ways to actually increase efficiency. So if you look at the efficiency of civilization, many, many things are actually much more efficient if you begin to decentralize them. So they're looking at wireless networking. We started with using Bluetooth and kind of pioneering the idea of a Bluetooth crowdsourced wireless network. Now we're doing it with trust, activating and allowing anybody to capture data on their phones. But even the talk before with Accurast, allowing people to do computing on your phone. There's a lot of things that if you empower a regular person to do it, it becomes much more efficient and a lot cheaper. And people are just starting to realize this. So it's pretty an exciting time to be in DePIN.
Definitely. I completely agree, and I love what you guys all said, and I think that's why I tell people DePIN is here to stay, because centralization is no longer keeping up with the needs of human basic connectivity, and that's where decentralization really comes in to build that efficient network. So definitely love what you guys all had to say. And obviously you have so much more experience, and you've been building so long, so I'm guessing a lot of people want to learn more from your experience. What has been the biggest lesson you've learned while building your project? And I'm going to start with Garrett over here.
I'd say the biggest lesson that we learned is that you really need to have a good incentive model and a good incentive structure in place. So we built a DePIN network before even crypto was a thing. We were building an app called FireChat, which was a messaging network that used smartphones to build a mesh network. So you could send messages without the internet. And we learned that people weren't really incentivized to keep these networks active if they weren't paid for it or they didn't benefit from it in a really good way. And WhatsApp was coming out, LTE networks were beginning to be deployed. So it wasn't really until these crypto economic incentive structures came into place where you started to see these networks. Helium really pioneered that idea and made that work well at scale and proved that these things can work for all different types of other things. So I would say the biggest challenge was really getting the incentive structure right and making sure that it can scale anywhere in the world.
I don't think we have enough time to talk about all the lessons learned across governance, across, but if I would try to sum up to kind of like a couple things. So number one of the things that DePIN unlocks, I think that like our sector, like we are like leading the charge, is UX. Because if you think about, crypto pre-DePIN, is you had to be pretty technically savvy, which I know a lot of people in this room are. Like you're setting up a Bitcoin mining rig or Ethereum mining, and you had to know what you were doing.
It's hard.
And it is hard. And I think with DePIN, one of the things that this sector is really good at is growing the pie. We are making crypto economies larger because we are increasing the number of participants in the world who are participating in crypto. So UX matters of just, it's the keep it simple, stupid. So that's one, but the other one I would say, and this is a lesson, really within the Helium ecosystem is, a lot of these projects, like we're two-sided marketplaces. Our original launch, Helium was focused on IoT. It was on the LoRaWAN standard. It was all about smart devices. How do you enable smart city solutions, smart ag, all these things that we're missing in network. And our supply side grew very rapidly. We had a lot of fantastic manufacturing partners. I see one of, Seed Studio, one of the best right here. And we grew a rapid supply, but there wasn't necessarily a flagship product on the demand side to complement that from day one. And part of that is like LoRaWAN is a pretty fragmented space, but I would say, when I look at the IoT side, like DIMO is probably one of the best ways for you to interact with Helium's IoT network because you don't even see it and you don't even know it. It's just a fantastic, easy to use product that's providing value to its users and to its stakeholders. Now with Helium Mobile, you basically come out of the gate of, it's a wireless carrier. You could sign up for it, and you really don't have to know that much about crypto to participate, to see the value of a low-cost cell phone plan where you also get to opt in and earn for helping to map the network and show where coverage is needed. So again, the more that we can think about as a sector, how do we obscure the more technically complex elements in UX, and also as projects for us to think about how we're balancing a supply with demand, or it goes back to, it's Web 2 principles. Are we building things that people want to pay money for? So going back to those basic principles, that hasn't changed from Web 2 to Web 3 and thinking about that for your demand side.
Yeah, I think both of those comments are right on, and I would add one of the real challenges with DePIN is you are running a Web 2 business and a Web 3 business at the same time, and you have to balance those. So any two-sided marketplace, I think, is inherently pretty complicated and difficult business to ramp up because you're running both the supply side business and a demand side business. I think the DePIN model and the crypto side, in one sense, makes it more flexible and easier because there's these great incentives you can use, but it also brings with it a lot of complexity and volatility that you have to manage and think through. So I go back to both Garrett and Scott's comment that the tokenomics and making sure the incentives are really well aligned and they're going to last for a while is super critical because you are going to go through some rough waters. And if you're kind of put out too much supply too early in terms of tokens, it can be harder to recover from that. So it's complicated to manage, I think, a two-sided marketplace in general, and you need to really get the incentives right. I think that's a very important point.
Also seconding everything that's been said until this point, but Helium is a big inspiration for us, and the biggest thing I think that we really learned is, honestly, Helium Mobile is a great example of this. It's just a great product to use. So I guess my message to everyone else is don't be afraid, even if you're building a protocol and it's going to be permissionless and decentralized, don't be afraid to make a great product to get it off the ground. It may not be where you want to end up once the marketplace is live and it's all functioning the way you intend to, but the Web 2 kind of ideas still always apply. And unless it's a great product, people aren't really going to stick around when the tokenomic incentives are not as strong. The second thing is, make sure that you abstract as much as you can, that sounds bad, of the blockchain itself. Because the average person are not people in this room, and they're not going to go through the 24 seed phrase and all of that. It's got to be as simple as, Nest thermostat or your smart things or any other device you buy. If there was no token, a good check is if there's no token, would they still want to use it? And if the answer is yes, you're on the right path.
Yeah, and I think all of you mentioned something very important, and it's keeping your community engaged. So how do you think, what are some tips to get them excited and continue to keep them engaged? And I'm going to start with you, Yev.
So we have this car community as part of our community, which makes it a little bit easier for us because there's such a large population of people that love cars already. So for us, at least, we haven't had too many problems with finding contributors. Whether it's building a sample app, a lot of people are developers that also like cars, so they're happy to help test out new APIs or a new integration. Same thing with vehicle decoding. So we have to support 130 brands across different countries, tons of different vehicle configurations. A lot of those users are happy to help us test and reverse engineer the car. But the benefit is they're kind of fanboys, especially the people earlier on. And as long as you give them things to do, they're happy to contribute. And that really, it makes them a distribution channel for you as well, long term.
Well, I think we don't have the luxury of getting to play with cool cars, which I think definitely helps community building. And GEODNET has it pretty tough in the sense it's quite technical product. It's not super easy to understand. So I think community building has been a challenge for us in trying to explain what we do and why it's important. We've worked a lot on video content to sort of illustrate real people using the product. We've also tried to now recently bring in governance as a way to get engagement, and it's still a work in process, I think. It's like another leg of the business you've got to manage, the Web 2, the Web 3, the community, the overall crypto market, the narrative. There's a lot going on in a DePIN project, a lot going on.
Yeah, I think that, look, obviously the economics are always going to be like a core driver and everybody's going to want to know about token price, but the reality is we're going in waves and, how much liquidity flows in and out is not going to necessarily be something that your project has input on. So you have to think about what are the other ways that people can stay, what beyond the economics? What are the other things? And so, again, I go back to Web3 principles. We're here because we love the idea, user-owned infrastructure, user-owned data, things that give you agency. So what are the ways that you can do that with your community? So much of that is celebrating the community, giving them that sense of ownership when they truly are one of your biggest, if not your most important assets, because they are out there evangelizing, they're building, they're deploying. So, you kind of look at it, and it's not necessarily a silver bullet here. So are they guest posting on a blog? Are they helping to develop educational content? Are they a key contributor on a community call? Giving people ownership over things, because I think that beyond just, the economics and the incentives and rewards of participating in the network, how do they have that sense of ownership that I am here to help build this thing that is making a fundamental difference to the world? And you could do that in lots of different ways, and you have to test them, you have to try them. Be very communicative. Set expectations, because things are not always going to be on the timeline, and sometimes you've got to push things out very quickly, but talk to people about why you're doing things. Governance is super important. It's one of the things that I think we've done very well, of having a very engaged, very broad participation in governance. The downside of that is that when you have so much momentum around governance, some people might fall behind in how much is happening. So how do you leverage your community to help explain what's going on to other members? Giving that people that autonomy and ownership, it only increases their devotion to the project because it is theirs. They are part of the ownership of what you are building. So give that to them, and don't be afraid to try things that might not work. But keep your community engaged and involved, because they are critical asset into what you're doing. These are all people-powered networks.
Yeah, ultimately you have to build stuff people want to use. You can't just launch a token, pray, hope people use it. You have to have something people want to use, and ultimately you have to have something that enterprise customers want to pay for. One thing that we did is we actually launched a totally separate app called Click, which is just a simple camera app. So you can take a picture of everybody. I'm just going to shill my app really quickly.
OPSEC.
And basically you sign it, and you can now prove that that image is real. And this is something that a lot of our users and journalists and people are really interested in. So just keep iterating, keep testing, and building things that people want to use in their everyday lives. A SIM card is great. I spent years researching and thinking about deploying a SIM card. It wasn't quite for us, but it's something that everybody uses every day. Everyone uses their phone everyone's using AI, everyone's using electricity. So think about things that everyone's using GPS, their cars. So do stuff that people use all the time and just make a better experience around it. And that's how you're going to get people to use your product.
Definitely very good advice. And then going back to building, obviously IoTeX has collaborated with all of you guys, and we're still collaborating a lot of cool POCs and proposals. So what do you guys think? Is it better for a project to like collaborate with other infra tools and stuff like that, or build everything themselves? And I'm gonna start with Garrett.
I would say collaboration is definitely like much, much better. I mean, even at the beginning, we were like, oh, Helium, those guys are competitors, and it's not a good way to think. Like, you always want to think about how can you work together with companies like Helium, working together with IoTeX, because the space is so new. Ultimately, it's going to be probably a multi-trillion-dollar industry in the next decade. I think some people estimate a $3 trillion industry or something like that. But you want to be able to work together with projects, build those network effects, and find ways that you can collaborate and leverage each other's value.
Yeah. What do you think? Is it good to collaborate, or tends to work out well for everybody? I mean, look, it's a new space. If you look at last week at the U.S. alone, that was the industry coming. That was crypto as an industry coming together, and like the narrative is important to be as unified as it. Which is funny, and we're all building decentralized networks. Everything is about not single authority, but I think that it's important to collaborate. One, for our overall shared narrative. Two, the amount of market share available in each of these industries is so wildly massive that for a few of us to be able to carve out some percentage of that, like this is absolutely a tide raising all boats kind of like time for crypto. So the fact of so many of these things complement each other, the fact that we can share in a narrative and success together, the fact that this is not a zero-sum game, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, 100% on that. I think crypto is built on collaboration. The networks are really designed for people to use them and interact and build layered approaches to solutions. And I think it's not only a cool idea, but it also gives really practical value. Try to do everything from the ground up. You're going to be never being able to outpace the Web 2 guys, which is really what DePIN is so good at doing. So collaboration is a key competitive advantage in the DePIN space.
Mike, I think you said it really well when you pointed out just how many different things the DePIN project has to do, the Web 2 side, the Web 3 side, the tokenomics. Finding good collaborations is hard, but it's the only way to really get the project to where it needs to go. So I'm actually really proud to say, we use Helium, and we're one of the top data consumers on the Helium IoT network. The second thing is
Go get your macarons, everybody.
Yeah. It's an amazing example of also, like, for the user, now they have the hotspot and they have a car connected, and they're basically paying themselves to drive. And they're getting value out of both, right? But back to the topic at hand, the collaboration side. I'm really proud that we recently launched the collaboration with Streamer into production, so you can get the live data right up from the vehicle over a Streamer topic. We've also been working with Tableland, and we've put up almost, I think, 200,000 different vehicle definitions globally into what I think is the largest data set yet on what cars exist. It's 4 times bigger than what NHTSA provides today. But I'm all to say, collaborate when you can, and it's critical for the whole space to get to where it's trying to go.
Definitely agree. Competition is not something you want to be thinking about. It's collaboration, and I love that you guys all agree with that. And just to finalize, obviously you guys have a strong base in the U.S. What do you think is that? And also, are you guys looking to expand, or what's coming up next for your projects? I'll start with Garrett.
So I would say we're a pretty international team. I'm American. I love America. But I work with a lot of Europeans, and they love Europe. So it's really, crypto is about being international. I'd say with what's next, we're really focusing down on verifying autonomous systems. So basically, AI models are being deployed everywhere in the world, and they all need a way to verify their actions and verify the data that's going in and out of them. And we found that we've become really good at verifying what's real and what's not real. And so building on enterprise systems for that. And it's kind of cool to see that. I think DePIN is one of the only sectors where we're really seeing Web3 become integrated with enterprise. The only real revenues, in my opinion, right now are in DePIN.
So for us, and again, Helium has, think of our, the 2 different sub-networks as 2 products. One is very much around IoT and, smart sensors and smart devices versus mobile network. So, our IoT network has been around the longest, and I would say at this point, North America and Europe are like so unbelievably well covered. That the fact that I forget what the number is in terms of like percentage of U.S. zip codes. I don't think we're doing a good enough job in the global South in general. I think that's the thing that we could certainly be better about. We've had some certainly like bright spots and opportunities, but I think there's a lot we could be doing to kind of expand coverage and expand how we can provide more benefit to those economies. Helium Mobile, again, so we're Foundation. Nova Labs launched that product as a carrier in the U.S. Obviously, the arrangement with Telefonica is super exciting for expanding into Mexico. But some of the opportunities and things that are going to allow us to bring this model out internationally, some exciting conversations that are starting, but obviously that's kind of the next step on mobile is who is that next service provider that's going to be joining the network as a carrier overseas. So excited about that in the next, I will not say how long.
Yeah, for GEODNET, certainly international expansion is really key. We've had really good success in getting coverage in the US and Europe, and that is certainly the backbone of our network is there. It's probably the backbone of our revenue generation today as well. But we think we've made a big emphasis on India. We think that's a super exciting market for GEODNET. We think Southeast Asia is super important. Brazil, Mexico, all of LATAM, super important. And we're trying to figure out ways to grow DePIN in those areas. It's not as easy. The economics are a little more challenging for people to acquire the devices. We're looking to some of these DePIN coordination layer solutions, things that IoTeX is doing to help with bringing people who would have good places to host. I think there are plenty of people in the developing world that could host a GeoDNet station. How can we connect those with people who want to supply the infrastructure, the hardware side to do that? We've tried a few things. I wouldn't say any of them have worked perfectly yet, but it's something that I think is super important to our long-term business is to conquer these. We will be the first network in a lot of these places that's really publicly available for what we do. And so if we can get in there with a good quality product and deployments, it's going to be very beneficial over the long term to all the token holders. So it's I think somewhat of an open problem, but a really important one.
So DIMO is about 60% US and Canada and 40% Europe. And we are looking to go into more markets, but we have some complexity with the cars, which means they're different everywhere. So we're happy to expand everywhere else, but we also have to support those vehicles. So if you are interested in launching all the other regions, come reach out to us. We're looking for partners and distributors in all those places.
Well, thank you guys so much. I know some of you guys have to leave, so I'm going to wrap this up. But I truly appreciate you guys being here. If you guys aren't following them or involved in the projects, you definitely want to be involved in these 4 projects. These are the ones who are the example to watch in the DePIN. And we're so excited to have you guys here. And thank you for being here. And we're excited to see what's coming up next in collaboration. So thank you for being here, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.